In this part of the lesson, we will create a ring where we can take a look at channel settings from stones. So I'm going to create a new file. I'll use the basic closed solitaire. Let's name our part. Create the file and the part. So here we have our template with dimensions. Now, on a side note, if you want to change your units, come into the Edit drop-down menu, navigate to Preferences, and you can quickly change your units into various others, including inches. Confirm. Okay, and you should see an automatic change into inches. If you don't see a change, then just hit F5. This will refresh or redraw your design. Okay, so that's how we can quickly change our units if we wish to. Okay, so I'm going to create a ring. It could be an engagement ring. It will have a center stone, and then I'll channel set some stones on the shank. Okay, so we'll come in first of all with our center stone. We'll place a 1 carat round. That's 6.5 millimeters on the center gemstone datum. Confirm there. Okay, and then I'm going to come in with a shank, which I'll take from our counter design studio. I would like an open shank. Come into the ring templates. Okay, I'm going to grab one of these open shanks. The first one, I'll place it on the top datum, throws in our shank. Okay, we can modify our ring size. Okay, by turning on our dimensions, we can view the ring size of our template in millimeters. This is the diameter, 7.3 millimeters in diameter, a US size 7. Okay, so they're matching up. I'll confirm the operation. I don't want to tweak. We only have the ring size option to tweak this ring shank anyway. Okay, so there's our ring shank. It looks like it's come in our blanked environment. I'm not sure why that happened. I'll just blank it back out into our primary environment. Component, right click, blank. Let's swap the entity, visibility, back to our primary environment. Here's our open ring shank with our center stone. Now, if we want to make modifications to the shape of our ring shank, we saw that we only had one option, one parameter in our tweak tool, that is the ring size. That's because the purpose of this ring shank tool is being able to modify its history. Okay, so remember, we can double click to enter the component history. Here's the history for that component. Exit back out into our part level. So in this case, to make changes to the shape of our ring shank, we will be entering in to the history. Sometimes I find this easier than making changes within our tweak tool, since this is a bit more visual instead of being faced with a whole bunch of parameters. Okay, so we're going to modify this ring shank within its own history. So here I am in the ring shank history. I can drag my model stop throughout the history, step through and see how this ring shank is constructed. Okay, we have some curves, some ring shank sketches, and then a loft, and finally a fillet. Now, you may remember me saying previously that any changes we make to parameters in the component history will be reset when we regenerate at the part level. And this is true, but only in terms of the parameters within our deriving parameters of our component. Okay, not within the history operations. And I'll show you what I mean. So let me first of all change a parameter. The only parameter we have is ring size. So let's change this. We'll make it a 15.7 millimeter diameter. That's a US size 5. Apply. Okay, you can see our ring shank updated to the ring size 5. Okay, it's thrown off a little bit here, our fillet hasn't come in, but we won't worry about that now. So if I exit back out into my part level, okay, here we still have our modified ring shank, but when I come to regenerate the history, again, the regeneration is something that will happen often. Okay, you can see it is reset to the original parameters. Okay, but if we enter back into our ring shank, now we are able to change operations within the history, and they remain locked in even when we regenerate within our part level. So let's try that. I'll just add an obvious change in our history. I'll add a block to the side here. Okay, so we have this block, it's in our history here. We can regenerate within this component history. The block is still there. Exit back out into our part level. Regenerate the history there, and the block remains. Okay, our component history has not been reset. However, let's come back into our component history. If we once again modify our part, one of our driving parameters, let's drop it back down again, apply, okay, the block, we can replay the block. Okay, it seems to be coming in fine. But if we then exit back out into our part level, regenerate, okay, we get a complete reset. So the moral of this story is make your tweaks to your ring shank, make the tweaks to the parameters of the ring shank prior to making any changes to the history of that component. So let's, for example, use our tweak tool. We'll make this ring shank a size 6. Okay, we'll drop it down. Size 6, 16.5 millimeters in diameter. Okay, our fillets aren't coming in, but we have this ring set to be a size 6. Now let's change our template ring size to be a 6 as well. Okay. Okay, so we have our tweak there. We've made a change to the parameters of our ring shank. Now we can come in and make any changes we want to the history of our component, and we will not get a reset when we regenerate our history in the part level. So I'm going to come into the component history by double clicking. Let's get a front view. Again, we're going to come back within our component history. Okay, I'm going to modify this open shank sketch. Okay, so this is controlling the shape of our ring shank. In fact, I'm going to replay the rest of history and right click, edit it so that I can see the ring shank. Okay, so you can see how the ring shank is swept up along this curve. And we have these parameters, these dimensions controlling this curve. So I'm going to change a few of these. I want to drop down the height of the ring shank and bring it in a bit closer to my gemstone. So we'll bring this down. Okay, I'm going to bring this one down as well to move this point up so that we're no longer, so we don't have our curve within the ring finger. Okay, let's move in our ring shank closer to the gem. I'll move this one first, I think. Okay, I'm going to leave the shape at that. We'll exit out of our sketch level, back into our component history. Now we'll have to regenerate the component history. Okay, you can see that it's updated to our new curve. Okay, I think I also want to make some changes to our Shank Sketches. I'm going to have it narrower at the bottom there. So here are our Shank Sketches. Let's play our first one at the top here. Okay, I'm just going to make it a bit smaller. Bring down our dimensions slightly. We'll edit the next sketch, the next ring shank. This is the 3 o'clock ring shank. Bring the width down again. And I'll leave the height. Okay, we have one more ring shank at the bottom. Let's edit that. I'm going to bring the width down, but I'll leave the height there, the thickness. Okay, let's replay our mirror of the ring shanks. Okay, and then replay the loft of our ring shanks along the curve. Okay, so that's close to what I want. Let's try and replay or edit our fillet. Okay, the fillet is not going to come in because our fillet radius is wider than the depth or the thickness of our ring shank here, so we'll just drop this in a bit. That'll do. Confirm the operation. Okay, so this is our modified ring shank within the ring shank history. We'll now exit back out into our part level. Okay, so here we are in our main part assembly level. Let's try regenerating our history and make sure that our ring shank does not get reset. Okay, looks fine. So there we have made the modifications within the component history. Okay, after changing the parameters of the component. So now I'm going to create a bridge across the top of the ring shank. This is quite simple. I'll extrude a curve list from our template. Pick the curve list. I'll extrude symmetrically. Okay, I don't want to extrude that much. I'm going to drop it right down. 0.75. So that's a total width of 1.5 millimeters. Okay, now I'll do an offset, a thicken offset. We'll have an outer offset only. We'll thicken it by 1 millimeter. Okay, so the bit we are interested in is this bridge here. We'll end up trimming out the rest of this. So let's confirm the operation there. Here we have our bridge. Okay, now we'll perform a trim. Okay, we want to trim the bridge to the inside face of our ring shank. Now if we try to trim before merging our ring shank, you'll see that we fail. We can't pick our ring shank because it is a component. So we must merge our ring shank, merge it as a base, confirm the operation. Okay, now we can pick the faces of the ring shank. Back in our trim, pick our shape. We want to trim to this inside face. Keep trimming shapes, yes. Confirm the operation. Okay, now we have some excess material that we want to get rid of. So I'm just going to blank out our ring shank. Okay, and we'll just erase these two shapes. Right click, unblank. Okay, so there we have a bridge now. Next I'll come in with a setting for our center gemstone. Back in our Counter Design Studio, come into the Settings tab. I'm going to use one of these prong posts. Okay, let's use the round. Place it on our gemstone. Gem length, gem width, 6.5, that's correct already. I'm going to modify the elevation of our setting. We want to bring it down to the bridge. Okay, so it's just touching there. Let's see how the rest of our parameters are lining up. I'm actually just going to keep the original settings here. The default settings, they seem decent. Confirm the operation, cancel out the tweak. There we have our gemstone setting. Let's merge this to turn it into a shape. Now I'm going to drop a cylinder in here in the center of that setting. So come to our cylinder in the primitive shapes. Let's place it on this datum. We'll move it down later. A radius, I just want it to be a 1mm diameter cylinder, so radius 0.5mm. Length, we only need 1mm. Maybe we'll set it to be 1.5mm. We're going to move this cylinder down into our shank and to the meeting point of our prongs. Confirm. Let's move now. To move, just use the dynamic move, drag it down. There you see it going to the shank. About here. Confirm. Okay, now I'm going to want to face offset the ends of our prongs here, so I'm going to blank out that cylinder we just inserted. I'm going to face offset. Let's set it to be a reasonable number, 1/4 mm. Okay, we're face offsetting these to fill up the gaps. Confirm the operation. Right click. I'm going to unblank the cylinder. Okay, let's add a chamfer or a fillet, sorry, to our cylinder. Something like that. Okay. I might move it down just a touch more. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's save the work. Save. Okay, now let's finish off the setting of our centerstone by bringing in an under bezel. Grab the under bezel from the Gems Settings tab. Navigate to the round under bezel. Okay, that is this one here. Looks kind of like an oval, but that's just the perspective of the icon. The gem length, it's 6.5. Let's preview that and we'll place it on our gem. Okay, so here we have our under bezel. Okay, the seat width. This is the seat width here. I'm going to increase it. Make it a bit more chunky. Our bezel angle. This angle. Let's increase it, make it a bit more angular. Okay, and our bezel origin. I'll move the bezel down slightly. Okay, just to bring it away from the girdle. I'm going to confirm the operation. I don't want to tweak. There is our under bezel. Okay, it's touching our ring shank and our prongs. Okay, that means we have good support there. Let's merge this under bezel. Okay, I'm going to blank out our centerstone. Okay, and our layers drop down. Okay, so I can now add a chamfer in here. We've merged our under bezel so that we can make modifications to it as a shape now. Add this chamfer. Okay, that kind of looks good as it is. Increase it a bit more maybe. Confirm the operation. Let's come back, reveal our centerstone again. Okay, that looks good. The last thing I'm going to do for this center stone setting, I will add a fillet to the ends of my prongs, round them off a bit. I can use the edge fillet method. I could also use the loop fillet, doesn't matter because we'll have the same effect. The radius, let's increase that a bit. Okay, we don't want to increase it past the radius of the prongs at the top there. We don't want to create self-intersecting surfaces, so we'll leave it about here. Confirm the operation. Okay, so here's the setting for our center gemstone. Okay, so we quickly created our ring shank and the center gemstone with the setting there. We can now move on to our channel settings. We're going to channel set some gems along the side of our ring shank here. Okay, so we can focus on that now. Let's blank out using our layers, the center stone. Okay, we'll hide the center stone, and we'll also blank our settings and our bridge. Highlight them all blank. Okay, so we're just left with the ring shank now, and we'll create a channel setting. Okay, so there's a couple of ways to go when creating a channel setting for some gemstones. Okay, I'll show you two methods here. Let's first of all trim our shank. We're going to split it in half, delete one side. We're trimming to the side datum. Okay, we don't need to cap the trimmed region. Okay, so we have trimmed our shank in half because we'll be performing operations to one side and then simply mirroring it across to avoid doing operations twice. Okay, we have not capped our trimmed regions because when we mirror across our shank, we do not want faces in here because we'll be combining the two halves of the shanks together again. Okay, so let's start off on one method for creating a channel setting, and we'll approach this, at least at the beginning, in the same way that we approach pavés. Okay, so we first of all create a channel in which we can pavé. So let's do that. First of all, come into my wireframe tab. I'm going to use the intersection curve, this intersection curve. The first shape is going to be my ring shank. Actually, I'll pick the face, the outside face of the ring shank. Second shape, okay, it's going to be the top datum. This datum plane. Okay, it's going to throw in an intersection line where this plane intersects with that face. Let's set our line color to be blue. Confirm the operation. There is our curve. Okay, that intersection curve. We're going to be building up an object that we can inlay here. Next up, I'll be using my offset command. In the offset command, I want the offset on face option. The curve is going to be an edge, this edge, the face, the outside ring shank face, and then the distance. Let's start off at 0. I'm going to drop it in -0.5 millimeter. Okay, we'll also let it be a blue line. Confirm the operation. Middle click to bring up the offset again. This time pick the opposite side. Middle click, pick the face. Okay, we want a positive distance this time. So take out that negative. Okay, you can see the preview thrown in there. Confirm the operation. Middle click again. Finally pick this edge. Middle click, pick this face. You have the offset in the right direction, 0.5 millimeter. Confirm the operation. Okay, so we're building up this shape to inlay. We now need to trim away the excess. Okay, we need to trim all of these parts. So we'll be using our one-touch trim. One-touch trim. By the way, you'll see all of the hotkey shortcuts to the right of the commands that have hotkeys set up for them. So in this case, the one touch trim, the hotkey is Z. Pressing Z on the keyboard. Press Z, one touch trim. Now, as we've seen in previous lessons, it matters where we pick our trim point, particularly if we will likely make modifications or customize the history of our design. Okay, so we want to pick this pick point, this trim point, on this side of the curve. We want to ensure that it's always on this side. To do this, we'll use our inputting options. Right click along. Okay, we'll go along a percentage. Okay, a percentage, let's say 0.05. Okay, so very small percentage. But this should ensure that we are always trimming these curves on this side. Okay, this side of this curve. Okay, so that we trim the right parts. So pick the curve. That is a trimming point. Middle click to confirm. Okay, we've trimmed that top area to this edge, so we just need to reperform that trim. Right click along. Same again. Okay, so we're trimming always on this side. So we'll just repeat this now. Along, middle click, right click, along, middle click, right click, along, and so on. Come down to the other end now. Right click along. Okay, now when it comes to trimming out this area, well, we can use the same strategy in fact. Okay, so we have our shape here that we can inlay to create the channel. So let's try out our inlay. Shape, inlay is under the merge, pick the face, the curves, let's do a shift, left click, chain pick our curves, offset, we'll do a negative 0.5 millimeter channel. Confirm the operation. Okay, we have an inlay there. If for some reason the inlay didn't work, you can approach this differently. Undo the inlay, come into the freeform tab, split with curves, pick the face, the curves, we can shift, chain pick them again, confirm the operation. There we've split that face with the curves, and then we can perform a face offset, negative 0.5. Okay, so either method works there, either the inlay or the split with curves and then the face offset. Okay, so sometimes one method may not work, so you've got alternatives. Now we'll perform our pave within this channel. Let's first of all inquire the distance of our channel to ensure that it is large enough to hold some stones. Okay, so let's see what we have. 1.5, that is good. That is good enough width. We can get some 1.5 millimeter stones in there. That's plenty large enough. Let's come in and perform our pave. We'll use our gems between two curves, pave. Okay, curve A, we're picking the edges. Curve B, opposite edge, surface, this bottom face. Okay, so the same methods as before using our pave commands. Let's give our stones an elevation. .2. Spread our stones out, increase the number. Okay, we've got 7 stones in there. Okay, I'm going to leave it at this, confirm the operation. There are our pave gems. Okay, so we're still doing the same thing as with previous paves. Okay, now this is the point where we would come in with our cutters and beads. In this case we're doing a channel setting, so we're going to approach this differently. what I want to do is face offset this inside face. I want to bring it all the way through. Okay, and then I can use intersections removal. Okay, so we're just cutting away the material in the middle there. Confirm the operation. Okay, we've cut away the material. Okay, so we just needed that face in order to create the gems between two curves command. Okay, so next up I want to place some under bezels on each of these gemstones. Prior to doing this, I'm going to note down the diameters of each stone so that I can use that when creating the under bezels. So we come into our Gems and Settings tab. In fact, we're meant to be in the Tools and Cutters tab. Tools and Cutters, Inquire Stone. Okay, let's inquire the first stone. Just hover the cursor over the stone. Don't need to left click. We can see the dimensions there. 2.15. I'm going to write it down. Next one, 1.91. 1.73, 1.63, 1.56, 52, and 0.5. Okay, so now I'll come in with the under bezels. Gem settings, under bezels. We want our round under bezel. The gem length, we'll start with the first one, it was 2.15. Preview, place it on our gemstone. Okay, we're going to increase our bezel length below the girdle so it comes all the way out, because we'll be trimming later, so it doesn't matter how far it comes down. I want to increase my seat width as well, so 0.4. Okay, and I will leave the rest of the settings as they are. Let's confirm the operation. No need to tweak. Okay, so there is an under bezel for that gemstone. Now we'll repeat this for the rest of our gemstones. Under bezel. Okay, in the full version of Jewelry Cad Dream, this is far simpler because there is a tool that we can use that will place a bezel or a setting straight onto a stone, and it will pick up the parameters of the stone so that we don't have to manually input them. That is in the full version. Okay, in the light there are fewer tools, which just means that we sometimes have to go the long way around. Okay, let's check these out from the bottom. They're coming in fine. Okay, so it's a little bit time consuming. Last one, confirm, cancel out the tweak. There are our under bezels, they're all components, so they need to be merged. Shape, merge, let's pick them all, merge them as a base, confirm the operation. They're now shaped and we can trim. Okay, I'm going to trim them to an extruded edge. I'm going to extrude this edge of our ring shank. Okay, by default it's extruding in the y-axis direction, which is what we want. We'll perform symmetrical. As a base, there's a face that we can trim to. Use the trim tool. The base will be our under bezels. Trimming to this shape. And we do not want to keep the trimming shapes, but we do want to cap the trimmed regions. Okay, the right side, confirm the operation. There we have trimmed the under bezels. Okay, so that's looking good there. To finish off our channel setting, I'm going to offset these inside walls so that they overlay or overlap our gemstones slightly to allow for a setting to take place for the channel setting. Okay, so let's face offset. Just want to face offset them. Let's start off with 0, just so we can increase and see for ourselves. Okay, so I don't need to do much. Let's say 1/10 of a millimeter should be enough to hold our gemstones in. Okay, then you'd come in either with a pre-cut with a cutter, or you can leave it as it is. Put the cut in yourself at the bench. Use a wheel burr. Okay, one final thing, I'm going to blank out these gemstones. They must be under mealy stones. Okay, I want to add in the chamfers to the inside of the under bezel. Okay, so we know the thickness of this is 0.4, so our setback has to be less than 0.4. Let's say 0.35. And we'll pick these edges. Confirm the operation. Let's bring back our mealy stones. Okay, so that is our channel setting. Save the work. Okay, now let's mirror this across to create a complete shank. First, we'll mirror across our shank and the under bezels. These are the shapes. Okay, mirror them across to the other side, so across the side datum plane. Okay, there we go. Next up, we'll mirror our diamonds. Okay, now when we mirror components, I like to use the component mirror tool in the Tools and Cutters tab. Okay, it just handles the move better. Okay, there's our preview. Confirm. Let's hide our JCD datums. Okay, you can see by this dashed line that we have open edges here, open faces. So let's perform a combine of our two ring shank halves. You'll see the dashed lines disappear as we can create one complete shape. Okay, now let's bring back our settings. First our center stone. Okay, now we'll unblank. Let's unblank all. Okay, so that is a ring with a channel setting completed. In fact, what I would do, I don't like this here. I'd want to face offset this bridge just a little bit on both sides so that we have this gap filled up. Okay, so that's one method for creating our channel setting. Okay, if you wanted a hole here in this bridge, you could just use a cutter or very simply extrude symmetrically, cut, okay, and of course you'd have to repeat that for the other side. Okay, so we'll save the work there. Okay, but you saw with the under bezels that was a bit time consuming. Let's show you a different strategy to create a channel setting. It's faster and easier, but we get a different result. Maybe not as favorable, but let's do it. I'm going to come back in my history prior to the offset where I removed that inside face. So come back prior to that offset after our pave gemstones. Okay, we'll blank out or hide our center stone again, and we'll also blank out our settings. Okay, I don't know what that is there. It may be the same old issue we have. Yep. Just swap the entity visibility. There's a small glitch there that sometimes these sort of ghost components show up that aren't really there. Anyway, back to this design. To create the channel setting this time, we're going to come in with some cutters. Okay, so this is very much easier. Tools cutters, we're going to use the round azure cutter. Pick our stones, we're going to pick them as a feature, pick them all at once. Then we need to pick the bottom surface for our round azure cutters. Okay, and you can see our preview there. Now we're going to reduce the scale of our cutters because we do not want them to touch the channel walls here unless we wanted a pre-cut. Okay, if we wanted a pre-cut, we could place the cutters inside of the channel wall to get the pre-cut. In this case we don't want it. Let's drop down the elevation to a negative number. Okay, just to bring them through, and I'll also, well, there's some settings I can make changes to in the tweak, so I'm going to confirm the operation here. Let's load up the tweak. Okay, maybe I want to bring these back in a bit. Let's check, say the surface thickness is actually just 1 millimeter. Okay, I just want to make that hole slightly larger. I'm going to confirm the operation. There are our cutters. Let's now merge them. Merge the cutters to remove them from our ring shank. Okay, there you go, we have our cuts. Okay, if you don't like the way these look, you can always reduce the diameter for some of the cutters so that they don't get this intersection here. We'll do that. Let's undo the merge. Come into the tweak tool. We'll pick the cutters, not altogether as a feature, we'll just pick a few of them as components. Load them up. Let's drag out this box. Let's see now, I think it might be this azure offset. Let's try. Drop that down to 0.4. Yes, this is the one we want, so let's say 0.3. We're reducing the diameter of the lower portion here. Let's confirm, see if this will be enough. Looks like it will be. Let's repeat the merge cutters, pick them as a feature. Okay, so there we got a different result. Okay, I might just modify that tweak slightly again. Point 4. Okay. So this is a different type of channel setting. Let's come in and face offset our inside channel walls again to overlap our stones. fact, I'll see if we can use the same one at the bottom here. So I'm going to come through history, delete the operations that we no longer want. This is the face offset. Let's see if it will do the job for us again. Okay, it doesn't seem to be liking that. Let's try it ourselves again. Okay, so this face offset isn't going through for whatever reason. Okay, we can get a negative offset but not a positive offset. Okay, it's just not working. So we can approach this in a different way. We can simply extrude this face positive, well, we want it one side, and we want it to be a positive 0.1 millimeters, and we want to boolean add it to the shank. Okay, so it's a different way to get the same result. Okay, we have this extra edge in there, but it doesn't matter, it's still part of the same shape. Do the other side, extrude 0.1. Okay, we'll have to have that as a negative, and we'll boolean add it again. Confirm. Okay, so there's the channel setting. Let's delete the offset, the chamfer, and we'll just replay. Yeah, this is that phantom component again. Just swap the entity visibility to get rid of it. We'll replay the mirror. Okay, and the next stone mirror. Replay the combine. Okay, let's unblank the rest of our build, the center stone, and right click, unblank all the settings. Okay, that's looking good. And we can come in again with our extrude cuts if we want to create the cut all the way through our bridge as well. So let's do that. I'll blank out the mealy stones so that we get a view. Extrude an edge. Extrude this edge. Symmetrically. That's all it needs, and we're cutting. Okay, we can specify the boolean shape we want to cut from, but it doesn't matter. Let's confirm. Middle click and repeat the operation for the opposite side. Extrude symmetrically. That's fine. Confirm. Bring back our mealy stones. Let's change the, well, let's combine add our parts now. Let's start off with our shank and the bridge. Combine add. Okay, that's fine. Next we'll combine add the center cylinder and our 4 prongs. That's good. Let's finish it off, see if we can get it all in one go. Okay, so we have one complete shape there. Okay, you can see something is not unhighlighting here. If that happens, utilities, unhighlight all. Let's pick it, change the color so they're all the same. There we have our engagement ring with the channel settings. Save our work, and we can come in and see this in a live render. Let's place the live rendering studio. we change the face attributes. We'll try the free live renderer. Okay, you can see how some of these edges are a bit harsh and abrupt. To soften these up in the live renderer, I like to add in a small fillet. Just a small one. Edge fillet 0.1. Just on our edges here. Okay, it's not grabbing that one. To unpick all, let's do these edges. Confirm. Middle click. Let's try the outside again. Okay, that's coming through alright. We'll grab the other side as well. Let's try a chain pick. Okay, let's reperform our live render.